The top business stories live from the Sky newsroom. The IMF warns that public investment spending is badly needed to drive growth here in the UK. A major overhaul of the UK's water system could ban companies from making a profit. And two American giants under pressure. We'll explain what's going on at McDonald's and Starbucks. Very good afternoon on this Wednesday. Welcome to Business Live with me, Gary McCaffrey. A week ahead of Rachel Reeves' budget, and the International Monetary Fund has urged the government to protect public investment spending while keeping debt under control. The IMF's Fiscal Affairs Director has said that public investment in new technologies and the energy transition is badly needed to try and drive growth in the UK and prevent the national debt from rising too far.
In most countries, fiscal plans that governments have put in place are insufficient to deliver stable or declining public debt ratios with a high degree of confidence. Additional efforts are necessary. Delaying adjustment is costly and risky. Kicking the can down the road won't do. Time to act is now.
Our economics and business correspondent Paul Kelso is in Washington for us this afternoon. Good afternoon to you, Paul. IMF were, had some good news, didn't they, for the UK yesterday? And all this ahead, of course, of Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor, and the Governor of the Bank of England turning up there in DC a little later.
Yeah, they have. The messaging, I think, we were hearing from the IMF, notwithstanding this warning about the scale of the national debt, will please Rachel Reeves. She's on her way here now. It's one of these events where you probably start to understand you are Chancellor of the Exchequer. She'll be joining nearly 200 finance ministers from around the world. The focus today here, though, has been on debt, not just the UK's debt, but global debt. About $100 trillion owed by governments, and about half of that is with countries that aren't doing enough, in the IMF's view, to deal with the debt, and including among them is the UK, where debt is rising. Now, I asked the head of the fiscal director of the IMF this morning how the Chancellor should be addressing the budget with this issue of debt in mind. This is what he told me.
You mentioned in the report that developed economies, including the United Kingdom, face risks if they don't bring debt down. We have a budget next week. Perhaps you could tell us, what are those risks if the UK does not address its debt position quickly?
So, when we think about the United Kingdom is one of the countries that I listed where debt is substantially higher than it was projected pre-pandemic. It's also one of the countries where debt is projected to increase over time, albeit at a declining pace. If I were to give you my concern about the UK, I would use what Kristalina Georgieva, the managing director of the fund, emphasized as a theme for these annual meetings: the combination of high debt and low growth.
The message that we heard from the fiscal director that already went on and said that while bringing down debt is a priority, public investment has to be protected. And actually, that was the central point of his answer, that while the Chancellor, he won't comment on the politics of it, of course, while the Chancellor needs to bring down debt, she should protect investment, because we will not break out of this trap the UK is in without delivering growth. So that is probably going to chime with what the Chancellor is going to be saying in her budget. She's expected to emphasise investment, public investment in the green transition, in technology, to deliver growth, at the same time as trying to close a big public spending gap by raising taxes. A huge challenge when she gets here tomorrow and meets some of her colleagues from the G7 and the like. She's in a pretty lonely place at the moment, would feel, with everyone criticising plans for the budget before they've heard them. Here she'll meet lots of finance ministers in exactly the same boat, trying to navigate out of a high debt world at the same time as your growth is tepid.
Thank you very much indeed for that, Paul Kelso there in Washington, D.C. Now, a major shake-up of Britain's water system has been launched with a new commission set up to investigate the UK's troubled water industry. After years of underinvestment and pollution scandals, the government says it will aim to strengthen regulation and boost investments.
There is a correlation between investors that have been exposed to the water sector and feel that they have not had the regulatory environment that they expected, and returns have been, very, very poor by international standards. Now, that's what needs to change. The Labour government has put private investment at the heart of its economic growth strategy. That's very much welcomed. And now we need to see, piece by piece, the investment landscape coming together in a coordinated way so that the UK returns to somewhere near the top of the international markets as opposed to languishing pretty well at the bottom.
Now, two US giants are on a spot of bother today. Shares in McDonald's plummeted after its hamburgers were linked to a fatal outbreak of E. coli. And Starbucks has suspended its financial guidance as its results showed a drop in revenue and a sharp fall in quarterly earnings. Well, let's talk this through. Live from New York is Irene Tunkel. She's the Chief US Equity Strategist at BCA Research. Good afternoon to you, Irene. Let's start with McDonald's. Quite a dramatic drop in its share price today. Talk us through what's got wrong.
Well, there is an E. coli outbreak with the few cases in Colorado, mostly in Denver, but some of the other Midwestern states are affected. And certainly this is a concern because, McDonald's is such a core American business. And obviously this outbreak has gained visibility. This has happened in the past to Chipotle, that happened to Wendy, and now I guess this is McDonald's, time to deal with this serious issue.
And they've had quite a roller coaster week because, of course, they also did, didn't they, with the presidential nominee, Donald Trump, serving fries.
Yeah, I thought that's quite a fun move, to be honest. And the reason that he's doing that is because, like I said, it's really an iconic American business. Everyone eats at McDonald's. One out of 10 Americans have worked at McDonald's. So really, this is an appeal to the American working class. And this is the reason that Kamala Harris has also mentioned that she has worked at McDonald's in the past. And this is really important because I think that the last battle is for those undecided workers, voters, and also it's important for the working class to actually turn up at the polls.
And in terms of the long term, is this just a blip for McDonald's, or do you think that this actually could be a more serious problem?
Well, I think it's not clear yet, but I think that the response was very swift. They basically withdrew the quarter pounders that were linked to this outbreak, and also they think that the outbreak is linked to onions, but at any rate, they act very decisively, and they more or less replicate the path that Wendy has taken a few years back by recalling the products effectively. And Wendy was able to move on fairly fast. So hopefully this will be behind for McDonald's. Again, I think that ethics matter, and the company is acting, strategically from a business point and also ethically from a human standpoint.
And let's now talk, Irene, about another iconic American brand, that is Starbucks. And again, they've been under quite a lot of pressure recently. Talk us through what the new chief executive is hoping to achieve.
Well, I think that the idea is that Starbucks wants to go to old Starbucks. It was conceived as a meeting place, as a community place where people meet, where people talk. And that was basically the roots of the company. And over time, it kind of departed a little bit further away from these initial roots. They are making money on, you can order your coffee on an app. It became much more a sort of drive-through business. And while that is potentially lucrative because you can serve more coffees, but that specific magic, that something that made Starbucks a multi-billion-dollar company kind of is gone. It's no longer that place where people come in and just sit for hours and meet their neighbors. And I think that what the new chief executive is trying to achieve is take the company back to its roots without losing the profitability.
And Irene, does that fundamentally mean then, in some ways, doing maybe fewer of the more extravagant copies that have popped up in the last couple of years? You know, vanilla-infused lattes and spiced pumpkin lattes and creme brulees and all this sort of stuff. Do you think it means going back to kind of more basic coffee? Is that the thought process?
Well, it's not entirely clear because he has been on the job for about 6 weeks. What he did say is that he's going to simplify the menu. Will the pumpkin latte be gone forever? I don't think so, but we don't know yet. But I think that the idea is it's not so much that they are not going to serve these extravagant drinks, but it's more about the ambience within the stores. It's more about, bringing back that special atmosphere back to every shop.
OK, really interesting stuff. Irene, thank you very much indeed. That's Irene Tunkel there joining us live from New York this afternoon. Let's move back to the UK now, because regular viewers will know on this programme that we like to keep you up to date with how artificial intelligence is changing our working lives. Well, Genie AI is a London-based software company that uses artificial intelligence to automate legal contract creation. It's just raised £13 million in funding from Google Ventures. Well, let's speak to Rafi Farouk. He's the co-founder and chief executive of Genie AI and joins us now. Very good afternoon to you. Just talk us through what this company of yours is achieving and hopes to achieve.
Well, thank you, Darren, for having me. My co-founder Nitish and I created Genie AI 8 years ago with a mission to increase global economic efficiency by helping legal teams reduce contract turnaround times. And we do this by using AI to create entire legal agreements from scratch that are highly customized, comprehensive, and legally sound. And we also help users spot risk and mitigate that by amending their documents in minutes rather than days. So Darren, we now have over 100,000 users using Genie, and we're really excited to continue becoming the go-to legal drafting platform.
You say this, and I've read some of what you've written about kind of personalisation as well. Can that be achieved with AI at this stage, that the AI can operate at that level?
Yeah, it's really interesting. I actually wrote my thesis, my MSc thesis on generative AI 8 years ago. So it's been fascinating to see how far it's come. And we are at a stage now where not only can you draft quality legal agreements, but you can tailor them to your users. And what we often hear from our customers is, you can find legal templates online, but to really make them specific to your needs and high quality, you need to customize them. It's an ongoing project, Darren, and AI is always improving. But we believe a good use case for AI is helping with documentation, doing admin work, and helping lawyers do the more exciting strategic work.
Well, clearly you've raised a lot of money towards this. In the end, though, is this just going to mean fewer people doing this type of work, people losing their jobs effectively?
Yeah, it's a great question, one that we receive quite a lot. In my view, Darren, the most important thing for AI in society is the right use of AI. So we should use AI for tasks that we shouldn't really be doing as humans. Maybe we shouldn't be doing the admin work. Maybe we shouldn't be doing lots of legal documentation or Excel spreadsheets. Maybe lawyers should be doing the strategic work, the work that requires client trust, speaking to people. And I think this is a message for society in general, really. Let's be human where we want to be human in matters of
that may be
community, trust, emotion.
Yeah, that may be true. Of course, there are millions of people who do rely on incomes from jobs that, might be viewed somewhat as tedious or kind of functionary. And that is the real long-term concern, isn't it? That AI is moving, as we've just seen with your company, at such speed that it could take those jobs away with no real ability to replace them.
I absolutely agree with you. And I think this is a really important conversation that we need to have and not hide away from. What I would say is that today we have a large proportion of these 100,000 users using Genie that are actually small businesses who typically can't afford legal fees. And we are helping them to access the law and access legal services at a much cheaper cost. so businesses can move faster and the global economy can be more efficient. That said, we also get large companies in construction, manufacturing, and even small law firms using Genie too.
Okay, and just very finally on this, you know, we've focused an awful lot on this programme and elsewhere on productivity and how to make the British workforce more productive. Do we need to worry about that in the kind of medium to long term, in the sense that it's pretty clear, I would say, or maybe there's an argument to be made, that AI technology is just simply going to make us productive anyway?
Absolutely. And, you know, we've seen a big uptick in the stock market since COVID as everything's gone online and AI has become really prevalent. What I would say is that we want to make businesses move faster, because that helps ordinary people feed their families and ultimately have more money in their bank. But in addition, I think a wider discussion needs to be had about the general aims of society. Is productivity and an obsession over GDP growth really the right thing? Or do we need to start measuring societal happiness and well-being? And that's when the conversation about AI might really change.
Indeed, and those are big, big questions that we don't have time for at the moment. Rafi Farouk, thank you very much indeed for joining us, and good luck with the company in the years to come.
Thank you, Darren.
OK, we're going to take a quick break here on Business Live. Coming up in just a couple of minutes, we'll be looking at how the markets are faring this afternoon. The FTSE down a little. We'll have all the details after this break.
This nation under God shall have a new birth of freedom.
A date which will live in infamy.
A short time ago, an American airplane dropped one bomb.
We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other thing. Not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
Well, I'm not a crook.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
Today, our very freedom came under attack.
We are the change that we seek.
It's been the honor of my life to serve as your president. I love my country more.
We're going to make America great again.
While I may be the first woman in this office, I will not be the last.
There's been 46 presidents of the United States. Who will be next in the White House? Get the full story first on Sky News.
I saw police being forceful, pushing young men and women to the ground as they made almost 100 arrests. Will the cold affect your voters?
Well, we have a lot of tremendous support.
Free, wherever you get your news.
The people here know that worse storms may well be on their way.
I'm Martha Kellner, and I'm Sky's US correspondent based here in Los Angeles.
The most significant day of this conflict.
They keep telling us that they want aid. And this is what's left of it.
Tanks, heavy vehicle.
Why only in America?
People want their country to work.
They want a job in a normal life.
Why are these homes empty?
I want you to be honest with people.
That has happened within minutes.
Sky News, the full story first. Free wherever you get your news.
There's always more to the news than a headline. We want to discover, to delve a little deeper, to find out what's really going on. Explanation, analysis, the people at the heart of every story. I'm Neil Patterson, and this is the Sky News Daily Podcast. So, by the end, we'll hopefully all understand what's going on in the world just that little better. Available wherever you get your podcasts.
We've got your Sunday mornings covered. From the front page and the sounds of the streets to the voices of the people who make the major calls and big picture politics beyond Westminster. We'll put you at the heart of our story. A new start to Sunday.
I'm ready. Are you?
Join me, Trevor Phillips, Sunday mornings on Sky News.
Emirates Premium Economy. Maybe one day all airlines will have seats like this. Fly Emirates, fly better.
Let's take a look at the markets and how they've done this afternoon. The European indices have traded lower as investors focus on corporate results and US Treasury yields. Here in London, the FTSE also finished down nearly 0.5% due to a sell-off of some mining stock. Meanwhile, the advertising and marketing giant WPP has continued to lead the session following some positive results this morning. Over on Wall Street, the US markets are trading downwards. As we say, we've been weighed down somewhat by McDonald's, among others. On the currency, the dollar's doing pretty well today, which has meant that pounds and euro are both down against the dollar. And on the oil markets, a barrel of Brent crude oil is at $75. Well, let's get more on this. Let's talk to Lucy Coates, who's the investment director at JM Fin, and joins us. Very good afternoon to you, Lucy. Let's start, actually, with another big American brand. We've been talking a lot about them today, Boeing, and they are still in very, very troubled water.
Yes, they are. So the new CEO has announced that he's going to look at their production processes after a very well-documented manufacturing issues sort of earlier in the year. And he just sort of wants to stabilize the business. So the numbers have come in a little bit, I mean, pretty much in line. But the thing that's caught my eye is that they've run through $2 billion of free cash in Q3. And they've now got $10.5 billion in cash and securities. And that's really just above the threshold that is required for continuing operations. So I think it needs to be really careful on the sort of credit ratings now. So I think this is really why the share's quite weak, at down 3.5%, because actually the results were pretty much in line with where we'd expected.
Let's come back home to the UK and talk about WPP, the advertising giant, and it's had a good third quarter.
Yeah, really good third quarter. So we've returned to sales growth. So we're up 3.56 billion rather than 3.51 a year ago. And that's driven predominantly by the US and Western Europe. Very weak in China, but we're hearing that from every company that has exposure there. But interestingly, one soundbite that I picked up was that the UK, the consumer, is sort of very cautious ahead of the budget. So I think, you know, for advertising and things, that's sort of more of a discretionary spend. So they're just waiting and seeing.
Well, talking about waiting and seeing, we've got, of course, the Governor of the Bank of England and Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor, in DC, or they'll be there very shortly. Are we expecting to hear them say anything of interest at the IMF a little later?
Oh, I think we're all waiting for some little snippet of maybe the trajectory of where interest rates are going to end up. I mean, we expect a couple of cuts in the year end. So hopefully in a couple of weeks we'll get another cut, but the level we're not quite sure. And the Chancellor, I think, you know, she's not going to say very much. You know, we've had good IMF reports return to growth of 1.1% forecast for the UK. So that's a positive environment. But I doubt we're going to get much by way of detail on the budget from the Chancellor.
Well, talking about uncertainty, the United States is obviously facing a bit of political uncertainty with the election in 2 weeks' time. And that means, to a degree, gold is yet again booming.
Yeah, it is. I mean, we've got falling interest rates, so that's a positive for gold. Gold's also a sort of seen as a sort of safe haven. But ultimately, it's about sort of the trajectory of the dollar. and it looks, it is on that sort of weakening trend. I know we've seen strength today, but it is on that weaker footing, and so so that benefits gold, and it just continues to beat all records.
And just very finally, Lucy, and quickly if you can, about 30 seconds or so, what's your take on McDonald's? Share price down a lot today. Is this a blip or something that could become a bit more serious?
Well, I think it is a blip, but unfortunately it is very much a consumer-focused business. And so, the consumer is going to be nervous. It's a slip-up. Investors will probably look ahead and not worry too much about it. But as long as it doesn't damage its footfall and people coming to its restaurants, that's the key thing.
Really, really fascinating stuff. We talk a lot about those big American companies today. Lucy, thank you very much for your time. Lucy Coates there, the investment director at JM Finn, with the latest on the markets. That is it from me for Business Live for today. Don't forget, you can get all the latest business news at any time on our Money blog, on the Sky News website, or indeed on the app. Up next, it is News Hour with Kamali, with the very latest on that attack in Turkey. That's up in just a couple of minutes. Stay tuned to Sky News.